Hello, everyone. Welcome to Indie Game Arcade, a podcast all about indie games. And this episode, we're talking about Toads of the Bayou, Locomotive, and Lake Creatures. My name is Chris.
I'm Joseph.
For 2 weeks in a row, I still have text in there that I wasn't supposed to have in there in the intro. And I need to delete it because it keeps throwing me off.
Oh, yeah.
But this week
we're not all over the place.
Yeah, this week I got through it without missing a step. But then I took the time to explain it, so it throws us off anyway. So
completely off now.
Yeah, so now it doesn't matter. So we got 3 games that we're going to talk about. One of which we both played, and then the other 2, I played one, you played one, and the others don't really know. Like, I don't know anything about the one you played, vice versa. Why don't we start with the one we both played so we can talk about that? That's Toads of the Bayou.
Game start!
I feel like I need to be saying that with a Cajun accent, but that's like an accent I don't think I can do. I can do a Southern accent.
I wouldn't even attempt it. So
yeah,
I say just go with it or don't at all.
Yeah, or don't. Yeah. Toads of the Bayou released November 19th, 2024. This was developed by Lagrange and published by Fireshine Games. Retails for $9.99. At the moment, it's on sale for $8.99. That's going to last through November 26th of 2024. That's this year. That's now. That is the present. For a quick description, Toads of the Bayou is a roguelike deck builder with turn-based tactical combat set in a cursed swamp controlled by the malevolent Baron Samedi. Players lead a group of gun-toting toads who must fight back using a mix of strategic deck building and tactical gameplay. That is all true. That is true.
Correct, yes.
I am always really bad, I feel like, at explaining gameplay mechanics. So I'm going to throw it over to you to at least get us started on how this game works.
I want you to consider the game Into the Breach. If you've ever played that game, then you'll have a pretty good idea of the way that this game plays, at least as far as the grid goes. It's on these very small maps. You have like set objectives that you're doing, and it's the same sort of like turn-based grid combat, except you're using cards. Your deck building portion are the cards that you've collected from the tavern in order to use the attacks that those have attached to them with your character. You start with one character, the leader, and that's who you're going to really use until you're able to beat a run. And like a lot of roguelikes, like beating one run is not beating the game. That's kind of just like the start to the game in a lot of cases. And in this one, when you beat a run, that's when you unlock the next character. Then you have to beat it with that character to unlock the next one, and so on. Well, not so on. There's only 3 characters, but in order to fight Baron Samedi, the one you mentioned earlier, you have to beat it with all 3 of those characters, and then he will reveal himself, and then you can fight him.
It's Baron Samedi. Joseph.
Are you sure?
Samedi. Yeah, do you not know voodoo? You gotta know the voodoo culture.
I don't know the voodoo culture. So anyway, I'm probably going to say it wrong every single time. But the way that it plays is, like I said, the turn-based grid combat using cards, your deck that you're randomly drawing from. And I think you draw like 3 to 4 cards per turn, and so on and so forth. You take turns with the enemy, and a lot of times your objectives will change up. There's always the main objective of like defeat 8 enemies. That's like the primary objective unless you're fighting a boss. And the secondary objectives will be something like either protect this frog scout who's over here, or protect this like pile of wood, or destroy these like altars to the dark gods or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's different small objectives you can do. Those aren't necessary to like win the level, but they do give you bonus resources in the
like
form
gold.
of
like
gold or whatever that
the oil
juice is. Oil. Yeah.
I get so annoyed with those scouts whenever you get on a map that's like protect the scout and protect, let's say, the market. And if that scout is positioned somewhere by that market, I'm supposed to protect both. that scout will shoot the market, man. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? That's your spot. Why are you doing it?
I have never had a scout shoot a market. So I didn't know that could even happen.
Wow. So I played last night, and that happened to me like multiple times. Where like the next round will start, the enemies will move, and I'm just seeing, okay, who's gonna attack what? What enemies are planning to attack my scout that I need to intervene and stop, or who's gonna attack the market? And I'm like, wait, who's aimed on the market? And I'm looking, I'm like, it's the scout. And then I ended up killing all the enemies in that round. And I'm like, what is he doing? And then he fired on the market and caused 1 damage. And I'm like, you jerk.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I guess like with the random generation of maps that could happen.
Yeah.
But I've never had it happen. So that's unusual.
I was so annoyed with him. I wanted to let him die, but I really needed that oil.
Yeah. The resources are very sparse and important. So especially like gold early on, because that's what you're going to use to unlock all the different things in your home base, which is the tavern.
There's another thing too, is like if you fail an objective, holy God, those are consequential, man.
Yes and no. At one point, I'll explain this later as I talk about some of the progression, but like at one point on the run that I won, the curse card that I got from from one of my altars or whatever getting destroyed, what it did was like add 1 burn to my character or whatever after, if it stayed in my hand at the end of the turn. And anytime I would use it to try to get rid of it, it would add 1 more burn to that for potential of more burn adding up. But my character was built around getting as much burn as I could on myself.
You have the Fury cards or something?
Yeah, the ones where it's like I just consume all my burn and that gives me strength. So I just like those curses like inadvertently helped me so much during that run.
So let's talk about how you get those curses. Which is if you fail an objective during one of your rounds, it's not like you fail your run and you got to start over. You can still progress to the next, level, map, whatever. But what it does is it adds a curse card to your deck. And that's usually, not in Joseph's case, apparently, usually something very detrimental. Usually the curse cards I would typically end up getting were ones that would prevent me from drawing a card or prevent me from I don't think it was drawing a card. It would take down the number of action points I had for that round. So like the default action points is like 3. So you draw that, then you've got 2 instead.
Yeah.
That can really, really cause a lot of problems, especially when you get on those maps, when you have multiple things that you need to accomplish. It's the kill 8 enemies. You've got 2 things you need to protect. You need to be able to get across that map quite often. Movement in this game too is also used by cards. You have this sticky card that you use to move 3 spaces, but you can prompt it to come up again so you can move a second time, but it only comes back after you kill an enemy. So you have to be really strategic about it because you're not always going to be able to kill an enemy every round, at least not starting out. So you really have to figure out move, kill, move again, see if you can kill something else or attack or whatever.
Yeah, a tip that I would give is don't start when you start out the map, it tells you where you want to place your
toad,
your leader guy as the first dude. But you'll think that you want to put them right next to the enemy that you want to hit. But I'm going to tell you not to do that.
Yeah.
And to walk to the enemy that you're about to hit so that you can spin that card so that after you kill that enemy, it refreshes it. So I found myself doing it every single time. I would always move first, even if I could place myself right by an enemy. That's never a good idea because each action you use while you still have your move card reduces the amount of move that it does. So let's say you don't use your move card, you shut out right by the enemy, and then it takes you 3 turns or whatever to kill them with your cards. Well, that means your move is now 0, so you're stuck there. So if you want to be more mobile around the map, start moving, attack, and then move, then attack, and like keep it going like that, and it flows so much better.
What's really nice too is when there's like a couple other movement cards that also have attack built into it. Like charge is really great. So
oh yeah,
that one, there's one more, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a 0 cost card, which is fantastic. And it also allows you to move through a line of enemies while doing damage. And having both of those cards in your deck is fantastic. So my best run, I had both of those. I was moving all over the place and I never failed an objective until I finally just, died. But
yeah. How far did you get?
I ended up getting about, I think, 3 or 4 spots into the final island, but I didn't make it to Baron Samedi or whoever's going to be at the end of that 3rd island. When that happened, I know exactly what I did, because it was one of those cases where I was kind of surrounded by enemies. I kind of got myself sort of trapped over on the side. And when the new enemies spawned in, I was kind of stuck and I couldn't move. If I had bought a Vive or 2 before going into that round, I probably would have been fine. But I had been saving my money for something else. And because of that, I think I screwed up.
I won my 3rd run, I guess it was. I don't know. But I won that one, and like that one is very easy to get through. Like I just had such a good kind of build going on with the burn cards that they just started like, I don't know, helping me so much, and to the point where it's like, give me more burn. That's where those curses came in. Everything was just kind of lining up very well, to the point where it's like, I think I killed the boss of the 3rd island in either the 1st or 2nd turn. Like he did not even have a chance.
That happened with me on the 2nd island, where I killed the boss in my 1st turn.
Yeah.
It was just 2 hits and he was down, because I had multiple of those, bar fight cards that are 0 cost and they raise your strength by 2. So I used 2 of those, and then I had 2 strikes. So like I basically hit him for 10 or more or something in that one turn and just wiped him out right there.
Yeah, those are so integral to getting through the 3rd island, because everybody has so much more health, and it really like ramps up from what 1st island, like even the first game of this I played, the 1st island I got through without getting hit once, and it was very easy. So I even got to the 3rd island on my 1st run thinking like, wow, I might get through all of this. And that's where it's like, oh crap, I was not ready for these enemies. So yeah, like make sure that you are being diligent about like building out your deck in a way that's going to really help you. The more buffs to your strength you can get, the better, at least with the leader card. I'm not sure with the leader character. The sister is the one that I unlocked next, who is like a nun with the rifle. So I don't know how differently she's going to play, but I am curious to find out.
One thing that we haven't talked about too is like the different toads, and we'll see what happens with the sister once you start playing with her, is that they all also have like a hero ability. So the leader, which is the only one that we've, played so far, is like, I think it's like every 3 kills or something, he's able to throw down a barrier somewhere on the map, which is
if he kills 2 enemies in the same turn.
Oh,
he
okay,
gets a
that's
barrier.
right.
Yeah.
That is extremely handy to have, because, you're constantly trying to defend things. So being able to throw a barrier in front of something, and having them have to take that down before they can attack whatever it is you're needing to do is so good.
There's a lot of cards that are like if you push an enemy into something, an obstacle, if there's nothing behind him, just throw a barrier behind him and push him into it, and that counts. So it's like a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It does extra damage and gives you whatever bonus on your card, which I think one of them is like draw 2 cards or something like that if you do that. So there's a lot of different strategies you can use, different ways to build out a character. Like I said, I used that burn build, but you also could just use a complete bar fight build and be like really buff at the end of it, because the bar fight that's upgraded gives you 3 strength every single time you use it. And as long as you have like a companion toad with you or whatever they're called. And those are like kind of bonus allies that are just over on the side. They're not doing anything, but they add some kind of like passive buff to you or some sort of like passive benefit to you.
Yeah, let's talk about those in the regards of how that tavern's used and what those like unlocks and everything are, because you start the game where like you unlock the card shop right away and you can spend money to unlock extra slots and then purchase cards for your deck. But there is 3 other areas of the tavern you can expand and unlock as well. Those are it's like the recruit area, the traps area, and then the Vive area. And all 3 of those things do different things. They're either consumables or passive buffs, like you said with the recruits.
Yeah, I did pick up a couple of the Vives, but I didn't use traps at all. Like I never found a use for them. And maybe that's just because like you're kind of getting your bonus barrier one already, which isn't a trap technically, but it's something that takes up a slot up there. So I was just defaulting to that. I never bought a trap. I did try to fill out my recruits as much as I could. I had one recruit that would like every time I got a burn, stun or something else, like it would give me a strength. So again, that was helping my burn build because it's like I'm burning myself to give myself this strength. So it's like all building together. And that's what I love to see is the synergies in there.
Yeah.
So that all is to say, though, there are so many multiple ways to play this with the different options you have that I went completely trapless, but I'm sure there's like a amazing trap build that you could do too. And probably a lot of either allied toads or items / cards that will benefit that as well.
Yeah, I know for sure there's one recruit that is definitely has something to do with the traps. So I'm sure that there's like a legit build for that. So let's mention real quick. So yeah, all the recruits, it's like you can have, I think 3 of them at one time, but they're just little companions.
No, I think it's like, you can have like 5 or 6.
Oh, really? Holy crap. Okay. Well, then I need more. They just, they basically are just passive buffs. They don't come out and fight, but they're like these little characters you see on the side. And each one offers something different, but you can get multiple of the same recruit and kind of stack their effect, which is interesting because in my last run, I had 2 of this same recruit and his benefit was like every time or for every 2 shots I take with my rifle, I get, like 2 extra action points. And since I had 2 of him, I was just constantly getting action points. So like I would, take 2 shots and all of a sudden I've got like 4 action points. So if I had enough cards, I could be doing, like 7 actions in a turn, possibly. So if I had something else that would have been giving me more cards, which there is another recruit that has that capability, that would have been like really, really good. So, like you were saying, there's a lot of really good synergy in this game. The traps are exactly what they sound like. You can purchase traps that you lay down on the grid. Some of them do different things. Some are just, straight up like bear trap kind of things. Some of them do poison damage over time. There's also the Vive, which is the other thing that you can unlock. What those are basically trinkets that have a one-time use that will provide something for you, like grant you a one-time ability or some kind of benefits. Like I kept getting this one that would let me jump over an enemy character and then draw 2 cards. So I really enjoyed that one. I used that quite a bit. There was another one that like I used that and it gave me 3 traps. So that was pretty handy as well. But like you, I didn't spend much time using the traps, but the few times that I did use them, I found that they were most useful on some of those really big characters in the 3rd act, because you would get those real big dudes that, just to give everyone an idea, let's say Island 1 or Act 1, whatever you want to call it, most of the enemies will be between 2 to 4 health. And most of your attacks would be between 1 to 2 damage. When you get to the third island, there's quite a few enemies that are like 5 health. Some of them are up to like 8 or so. So those traps, especially those ones that have like poison damage and stuff, those can be pretty handy around that period. But aside from that, I also didn't find a whole lot of use for the traps up until that point. But the Vive was very handy. I had a recruit that healed me for 1 HP every time I used a Vive. So that I really liked.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
As far as the art and sound of this thing, that is fantastic. The art of this is really good. The pixel art for the tactical part of this and the tavern and everything. The close-ups, so like whenever you talk to a character or something, and then the cards, those are more of like a hand-drawn style. And then the cards have almost this fake like 3D effect. Almost like the best way I can describe it is kind of like if you play Marvel Snap.
Yeah, like as you're kind of rotating the card a little bit, you can see kind of some depth to it.
So it looks great. The music is really good. Like I have been cranking that up real loud when I'm playing. Like I'm really into that.
Yeah, I enjoyed the music too. I had something like pretty much always playing in the background though, so I guess I didn't give it a full kind of appreciation, but it seemed good for what it was.
This is like one thing that I was looking at a lot of the Steam reviews of this, of which there's not a ton, but I did notice a few gripes in common. One, people a little bit disappointed in the lack of variety within the game. And also, I think the idea that if you screw up, you get taken out pretty quickly. I don't think I agree.
Yeah, but I would push back against that because it's a turn-based tactical game. So if you screw up, like you've had time to plan for this. So it's like any kind of strategy game. Yeah, if you screw up, then obviously it's gonna work against you. So I that's one of those things you just have to kind of plan ahead a little bit. It's like it's chess in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things. I think people are wanting a game that's a little bit more forgiving than this one is, but the game didn't promise to be, easy or forgiving. So it has some difficulty to it. I mean, I think once you get used to everything and you get used to the strategies that you need to come up with, especially after your first like run or two, I don't think it's nearly as difficult as people are making it out to be on Steam, but that difficulty definitely does ramp up for sure.
Yeah, you can see that in just the percentage achievements as far as like getting to, so facing some of the bosses that I fought, I'm seeing like, just unlocking the sister in general, 13% of players. And that's all you have to do to unlock her is beat one run. Yeah. The bosses that I killed, 8%, 9%. So it's like there is like a small percentage of people who have gotten through it. And I think that could just be because there's not that many people playing it yet. But I'm hoping that changes because it is a really good game.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I see even only 16% have made it to the last island, which is kind of crazy to me. So you got to learn. You got to learn from these games, folks. This is why they're roguelikes.
If you did bad, doesn't mean it's a bad game.
Yeah.
Maybe just get good. But I think like it just takes, it does take a little bit of patience. And really in this game in particular, the only thing I would agree with is like, as far as the difficulty is only in that you kind of really have to ramp up your character's strength, at least the first character. So you can't just like use a bunch of different move cards to keep getting around, or it's going to take you forever to take anything out. So if you haven't been like really focusing on like getting more strength, then I could see it being really challenging in the last level, especially because they, like you said, those guys are like meat shields. They have so much health in comparison and you only do like one base damage. So if you don't have strength getting built up, then you're going to be facing like an uphill battle there.
If I have any complaints about this game, which is just one small thing, it is the opposite of what a lot of people are complaining about. I think the boss fights are too easy. And I think that is my one caveat to this, which is because it's like I have more trouble in the other ones where it's like, having to avoid or having to kill enemies while also trying to keep things safe. But when it's the boss fights, it's just staying alive and taking out the boss. It's very, very easy to stay alive. Like, I don't think I've ever been hit in any of the boss fights. And it's just a matter of, keeping out of their hit targets and then getting in and taking them out. Like, to me, the bosses are too easy. But I say that having not faced the boss in the third act yet.
I mean, it's the same. I'll agree with you there because like he's kind of the same. Like he's stationary in the middle. He has these different patterns that he rotates through. And I think the difficult part, I don't know if it's the boss in the third level or not, but like one of the bosses, like if he hits you, like it's going to poison you and you're pretty much screwed. But I don't think I've been hit by a boss either because it's really easy to avoid them. Even with all the other enemies going around, there's almost always going to be a spot that you can move to. Especially if you have like some pretty good mobility or a jump or something, like you're always going to be able to get out of that area of attack. Like most of the time, I don't even focus on the other enemies at all during the boss fight. Like, you don't need to. Yes. You can really just like dodge around them. So I agree that they need to ramp it up in some way. I don't know what that is exactly that would make it like not unfair, but I think the way it is now, it is kind of a relief when you get to a boss because it's like, ooh, at least I don't have to worry about those objectives anymore and I can just focus. So yeah, agreed.
I think maybe if the boss would teleport every round of combat or something to another spot on the map.
Or if the boss just moved around, like instead of being a stationary. I mean, the first boss does kind of, he just slides from side to side. But if they had their own like independent movement like the enemies do, then that's when you could like really get put in like a bad situation.
Yeah, I like that. That would be a good idea. Because I don't even bother with the other enemies unless I need another movement card.
Sure.
Because I want to be able to move into the boss's range, hit the boss, and then move out of the boss's range. So unless I need to get my sticky move card back, I just avoid all the other enemies and just focus on the boss. So that would be my only real criticism of this is that I would like it to be, funnily enough, a little bit harder where everyone else is like, this is too hard.
Yeah, I think the like all the missions before the bosses can be a little like tedious or difficult, but that's only if you're really trying to get those extra objectives, which I would encourage you to for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But on the third island, I found myself like avoiding some of the objectives because I'm like, there's no way that I can do all of this and kill these big enemies in any kind of like reasonable time. So I just need to focus on the enemies. I'll ignore destroying the torches, destroying the altars, because some of it is like they're having you do so much and you have to move around so much. And with those big enemies chasing you, and some of them have range on them too, like that's where it becomes like tough to do those objectives for sure.
That's what got me in the end was being, like I was telling you earlier, being trapped. And then it was one of the ranged enemies that took me out. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that sucked. But overall, I would absolutely recommend this game, especially if you're someone that likes tactics games. And if you like pixel art, man, this is so pleasing to look at. The music is fantastic. I absolutely think that this is worth picking up, and it is a very, very inexpensive game, especially compared to like almost all the other games that we have reviewed for the past, whatever many episodes we've done this. This is probably one of the cheapest games, so I think it's 100% worth it.
So even at full price of $9.99, the quality of what you're getting here visually and mechanically, even if it, like some people may have said that like it doesn't have a ton of content, maybe that's true, But I think the content that's there is more than enough for a $9 price with the production quality behind it.
Yeah, that is extremely fair for the price. So yeah, and I would be so excited if they keep adding stuff to this game though. I would love it, and I would pay extra for some DLC or something for this if they decide to go that route. So
definitely.
I'm very excited to see what this developer does in the future, whether it is adding more to this game or whether it's something else. Because I think that this idea was very, very cool, very unique as far as a tactics roguelike. So, yeah, I'm going to be paying attention to them for the future going forward.
New game!
Let's jump into our next game. This was the game that I played and Joseph knows nothing about. This is called Locomotive. This was released November 21st, which was yesterday, as of when we're recording this.
Is it a point-and-click adventure?
It is a point-and-click adventure game, which is why
that's why I know nothing about it.
Played it.
Yeah.
This was developed by Robust Games, published by Chucklefish, which is one of my favorite publishers because they published one of my favorite games of all time called Pathway. It retails for $17.99, is currently on sale for some price. I don't remember what it is, 16 something. I want to say 16.10.
16.19.
16.19. I was so close. So don't at me. I was 9 cents off, you jerk. On the I don't know how to say that word, bud. On the something express. On a train, a passenger has been murdered, and you're the prime suspects. Plural. Uncover a thrilling mystery and solve satisfying point-and-click puzzles to prove your innocence. A slapstick adventure packed full of deadly surprises, shocking twists, and larger-than-life characters. Yes, as I said, this is a point-and-click. So it does have the typical mechanics of a point-and-click, which is hover over objects. In this one, left-click to interact, right-click to examine. There's also tons of dialogue options when you are talking to other characters, though that dialogue seems to be very linear. So even though you have a lot of options, I don't think this is not like a choices matter type game. It's like nothing about the story is going to change, but you might learn more about the person or the situation the more that you talk to them. I'm going to ask you real quick. Have you ever played a point-and-click adventure game? Ever in your life?
Maybe some of the old LucasArts games.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about. So let me first explain how this game functions and kind of the setting. So we sort of talked about the setup for this is like there's a train. There's this old lady on this train, Lady Unterwald. She's she's announcing her retirement. She's head of something that has money. But there was like a last minute change to her documents, and then she gets murdered on the train. And what happens is this plays out in a very Rashomon type style. If you don't know what Rashomon is, study up on your motion picture history. So the police, after everything happens, brings in 3 suspects that are recounting the events. And that is what the gameplay is this flashback. You as this person recounting the events. You start by playing her estate attorney, which is Arthur Ackerman, who is a dumb, goofy douchebag, but he's really fun and very funny. And you experience the events from his perspective. But there are 2 other characters you end up doing the same thing with as you progress through the game. So, obviously, it's going to give you different perspectives on certain events that happen on the train. Since all 3 of these characters were doing different things, they were in different places. Your perception of these different events might change based on the different viewpoints of the different characters, and your perception of and opinions on different NPCs and stuff that are also on this train might change as well, because you're getting, reactions, like different reactions from these people based on which character you're playing. All that said, through all of those things with those different perspectives, you're picking up items, you're examining things, you're interrogating people, and you're solving puzzles, all in an effort to understand who killed Lady Unterwald and how she was killed. So the pixel art, first of all, top notch. I think that is right away the thing that stands out the most, and is probably the most appealing aspect of the game as soon as you start playing. It looks amazing. There's also a lot of very, very good voice acting. Every character has a voice actor to them, and they have very good comedic timing. And look, I should say that right off the bat, this is very much a comedy. This is very much in the spirit of the old LucasArts, like point and click games from the 90s, because immediately I can see influences specifically from both Monkey Island and Day of the Tentacle. Day of the Tentacle being my all-time favorite. I will say, though, there are some imperfections, as fun as this is. These are legitimately just nitpicks from me, but the big thing that I think stands out, well, two things. One has to do with the gameplay, and this is also has to do with the UI system, which is when you hover over an object, it basically tells you what you can do with it rather than just adding it to your inventory and then being able to experiment, which is how those old LucasArts games functioned. So I think that takes a little bit of the fun of the discoverability out of it. It does streamline the game and makes you able to move through the story much, much faster. But I think it would be more fun with a little less hand-holding. The other thing is that the dialogue text for every character is this very curvy vector-based font, which sticks out kind of like a sore thumb amongst like everything else being this like very good, sharp, beautiful pixel art, which is like a really bizarre choice to me. I don't know, like the aesthetics just don't really mesh right there. So that's weird, but it's, again, those are nitpicks. But all in all, I think that it's fun. It's, even though the gameplay aspect of it's very light, the point of this is that it is a very fun story, much like those old LucasArts games were fun stories that you were kind of navigating through with these characters. And all these characters are super memorable. In the first 10 minutes, I was laughing out loud multiple times. You'll see a playthrough of this. You'll see one of Toes of the Bayou too up on our YouTube. But there's like, you'll see, the first like 45 minutes or hour of me playing this game on our YouTube. I laughed so hard, so fast in this game, and I laugh a lot while playing this. So, if that tells you anything, like it really captures that spirit that those LucasArts games had from back in the day. So if you were a fan of those, then this is definitely a game that you're going to have a lot of fun with.
I like the way that it looks. That's about the most I can say about it. I know it's not a game that I'll ever like probably play, and that's not to say it's a bad game. It's just not my type of game. Yeah. But I appreciate the effort that they put into it. The quality is great, and I'm sure as far as point and click adventures goes, it's probably like, top tier. I don't know what I would compare it to aside from, like you said, Monkey Island and Day of the Tentacle, but there's a ton out there, and this one looks like a high quality one. So if you like that kind of game, then, more power to you. Go for it.
Yeah, you can really feel the effort put into it. And this was a game that started as a game jam. I just wanted to like throw that out there that they did, and then they developed into a full game. So they did a fantastic job with it. So big kudos to this team.
New game!
Now that I've talked a whole bunch, let's move into the game that you played that I haven't played at all. This is Lake of Creatures, released November 15th, 2024, developed by and published by Antenna Games. On sale for, no, not on sale, just retails for $12.49. Is it on sale right now?
It is on sale right now until November 29th, but when this episode comes out, like I don't know when that will be alignment-wise. So
yeah, it'll still be on sale when this comes out. This episode will come out on the 27th.
It's on sale for $9.36.
Oh, so go get it. You only got like 2 days left. You better go get it now. For a quick description, it is a fast-paced action roguelike where you're on a quest to save the lakes from mutated creatures catch fish, find treasures, conquer enemy-riddled randomly generated lakes. I think I did actually watch a little bit of gameplay of this, but that was like last week, I think, when you first brought it up.
Yeah, so you left out the most important part, which is it's a action fishing roguelike, which is very unique.
Yeah, you even put it in caps in the notes, and I
did, and you skipped it.
Hey, man, dyslexia sucks. I'm I'm not going to see every word, so...
So, as far as the mechanics of this game go, this is the opposite of the game that we just talked about. Whereas the other game is like mystery solving and takes like some brain power. This one is pure action and just straight up like mental stimulation, because it is just like you going around in a boat and shooting all these like, I don't know, infected like alien things, these mutated creatures, while also trying to like, you know, be the fisherman that you are. And so between like waves of enemies, you'll try to catch fish. But once you cast and catch one of the fish, if there's a group of them, the other fish will start shooting at you. So it's like there's so much happening here. And the mechanics of let me just tell you about the general mechanics first. So you're fishing with like a little bit of physics, because you kind of have to, at least with the controller, you have to like rotate the joystick around and get it kind of swinging to get your line to go out further. And then you can cast from there, and you try to get it as close to the fish as possible. It'll let you know like if it's close enough to where the fish will probably bite. So you've at least got that going for you. But it's not the physics of this fishing pole are not just used for fishing. You can get items that make your line, or that make the bait like explode when it hits the water. So you could use the fishing pole then as a weapon. There are also puzzle like aspects of this where when you cast your reel, or there will be like an item behind a barrier. So the only way you'll be able to get it is if you cast your line right onto it and then pull the item out. So like the fishing pole has multiple uses to it in this, and is not just like a straight aim and cast. Like I said, you have to use physics to kind of get it spinning correctly to cast in the right area. There are upgrades and synergies you can choose from. Over 100 upgrades, apparently. I know I haven't seen probably even half of those at this point. And you're combining them that really have like a lot of effects on your gameplay. There's some games where it's like you'll get some kind of upgrade and it'll be like, oh, you know, plus 10% damage. It's like, okay, neat. Like, am I going to see that? Maybe not. But in this one, it's like, okay, this thing that I just got, it gives me one extra health heart, but also makes my shots really wobbly. So that means as I'm shooting, my bullets are going kind of all over the place. So it's like I'm sacrificing a little bit to get that extra heart, which is important because you only start with, at least with the base character, with 3 hearts. So, and it's really easy to take damage, and it'll sneak up on you because there'll be some things that are like spikes under the water, or like tentacles will come up from the water, or there's these alligators that will dive down and just kind of chase you down and then reappear right in front of you and hit you. So there's all kinds of things you have to look out for. So health is very important to have unless you get really good at dodging all that stuff. And another part is just like the lakes are all randomly generated, so you're never going to have like the truly same run twice. And in that, kind of like what we were talking about in Toads of the Bayou, where you were like, oh, the scout spawned in such a way that he was shooting at the building that I needed to protect.
Yeah.
In this one, like, because it's randomly generated, like sometimes there will be like a spot that's locked by a key, or like by a lock that you can only open with a key, but behind that thing, and you can see it, is another key. So it's like, why would I unlock this lock to get a key with another key? So like there are weird things like that can happen. That's not frequent, and it's not like a game breaking thing. It's just something funny that happens with random generation sometimes.
Yeah.
As far as the progression and flow of this game go, you unlock new characters as you complete these like kind of side quests that you're getting, or not even like side quests, or just things that you're doing as you're progressing through the game. It'll be like, you know, kill 50 of this type of enemy, you know, catch 10 fish, defeat a boss without getting hit, things like that. These little quests that give you kind of bonus characters, treasures, or features after you're completing those. And you have to sort of like balance like a risk reward thing with some of the puzzles. There's a lot of like spikes that are coming up from the water that sometimes it's like, okay, do I have enough health to where I can go over these spikes to get this treasure? Like, is it worth it to me? So there's a risk reward with that. Some of the bonuses, like I said, have a risk reward of their own, where it's like, do I want to take these wobbly shots if it means I at least get this extra heart or not? Because that can really like break the flow that I have going on right now. And after you beat a run, it seems like there's a little bit more of the like mystery behind like what's causing these mutations that's unlocked. Because I beat my first run last night, and it was like it just unlocked like a little bit, an extra section of the lake, and said I unlocked some kind of different mode. I haven't played since I beat it, so I don't know exactly what that entails, but I've only unlocked one other character out of the 4 total. So those I think are also locked behind those optional quests.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. As far as the art and sound go, the art is pretty basic. Like, it's kind of a stylized pixel art.
I like how it looks, though. I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very simplistic, but I think like that's to its benefit, because you really need, because it's an action roguelike and not a turn-based thing, you really need to see like where your enemies are on the screen. And I think because the colors are so bright, you really don't have any trouble like getting something lost in the background. Like, you're like, okay, there's a big bright green alligator over there. I know that. I need to keep an eye on him. And you're not losing it in the rest of the stuff because it's trying to be too like, I don't know, overly detailed. So I think the simplicity is to its benefit for sure. The music I found funny because it's like a rock anthem. Like, it goes hard, but it's like it's cool, but it fits the fast-paced gameplay of something I would expect from like Hell Knight, which I have talked about on this show a lot. But it's like, it's weird to me that it is here when you're on a fishing boat. I expected it to be like a lot more chill, and maybe like, I get that like this is really chaotic and action packed too in a way, but it just feels strange to me that this like rocking, like percussion heavy music is going on in the background while you're just fishing or trying to like kill these mutated enemies. It's whatever, but it's like not a complaint, just a weird observation of the kind of music they put against it. Still good music, just strangely placed. As far as my experience with this goes, I came into it expecting a really like chill experience because it's a fishing roguelike, or a fishing game in general. But there's actually a pretty decent challenge here, and you really kind of have to like be paying attention because it can get kind of bullet helly in a way where there can be a lot going on the screen coming at you at the same time. And while you can dodge around it, or not dodge, but you can like, move your boat around it, it's like, if you're not paying attention to something that's below you, might accidentally like, swim into some spikes if you're trying to dodge a bullet. So it's like you have to be aware of the map. It's not the map is sectioned off to where like it's different rooms essentially, like a lot of roguelikes do. So you don't have a lot you have to keep track of, but there can be like a lot of small things in these like single screens that you just need to be aware of.
Right.
So I came into it expecting like a lot more chill of an experience than I got. And I've done maybe 4 or 5 runs total, one of which I glitched out of accidentally. And that was just because I was kind of testing the boundaries of the map, because there's areas that are locked off. There's some puzzle aspects to this and things I think that it's just kind of like Metroidvania-y in a way where it's like,
there's like secrets or something.
Yeah, like I can't get to this thing yet because I don't have this other thing to do this thing. So it's like there's these rocks there. So what I was trying to do, I was like, do I like break the rocks with my melee weapon? And so like I swam up to the rocks and I like got into the corner of it to try to break through them. And it glitched me through the rocks. So I was like, okay, cool. I got the item on the other side of it. But then I couldn't glitch myself back out of the rocks. So I got trapped behind them and I had to like forfeit my run because I couldn't get out from behind those rocks.
Oh,
so
man.
I don't think it's like necessarily the game's fault. It's more like I just glitched it. But I think I don't know how often that can happen. So I think that's something to be aware of, is like, be careful if you're kind of like testing the boundaries of this game because you might break it. But with the random lake generation and the variety of enemy types, like each run felt pretty unique, especially with all the different weapons, and even on top of those weapons, the upgrades and changes you can get to the way the bullets go through and everything. There is a lot of variety to it for me, and the weapons can range from like harpoon guns to flamethrowers. Like it's a wild. I wouldn't say there's like a ton of weapons, but there's enough to where you've got a pretty good variety. And then the upgrade items, like I said, change the way that the game plays altogether, or can, depending on what you get. So I've been enjoying my time with this so far, for sure.
I was looking too at what else they've built. They had a game before this. It's a free game called Ogre Chambers DX. And it looks interesting too in that I think it is also a little bit of like a bullet hell. I don't know like how far it goes, but it looks like a little UFO, much like the UFO from UFO 50.
That's exactly what I was seeing. That I was going to say something. That's exactly what that reminds me of. Even that level specifically where you are in the little UFO bouncing around is what this feels like.
Yeah, that's really interesting. But that game also looks like it could be pretty chaotic. So like I kind of see the evolution of how they got from there to here, because this game, if you go and look at the trailer, this game looks like pure chaos. It's great, man.
After Kill Night, like I embrace the chaos. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like. It's mentally stimulating to me, is just like a lot going on at once, which is almost detrimental to like slower paced games for me, because it makes it where I'm like getting kind of impatient if something's not moving rapidly on the screen. I should probably pace myself away from these chaotic games for a little bit, just to kind of, I don't know, even myself out visually.
To try curb your ADHD a little bit?
Yeah, probably. It's probably not helping, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So... as far as to recommend, though, I'd say if you enjoy these like chaotic action roguelikes, this one's for sure one to try out, because it's trying some new things, throwing new mechanics at you, and it's not holding your hand through any of it. Like, I don't think it's told me how to do anything aside from like how to catch fish initially, but there's all kinds of secrets and puzzles and things you can go through that it doesn't tell you what to do or even how to do it. So you just kind of have to figure it out. And there's a beauty to that I really appreciate. So my only caveat would be that the kind of like bug or the glitch that I spoke of earlier, which wasn't like a crash or anything, but it did make me forfeit my run because I just got trapped. It was a bug of my own, a glitch of my own making, but I think that it's like
your fault.
It was my fault technically, but at the same time, it's like the game should be protected against people pushing against the edges like that, and it just wasn't. So
it happens, man. Have you read that manga, Quality Assurance in Another World?
I haven't.
It's
No.
So good. I love it. Dude's just like running along walls all the time, waiting to see if he glitches through. So
that's
funny.
what I'm saying. That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, not necessarily the game's fault, but something to be mindful of. However, for like less than $15, what I say, like 12 something, less than $13, like this game is more than worth it for the experience that you're getting out of it, if you enjoy the action-packed stuff.
I think there's been a common thread the last several episodes we've done. We've mentioned, I don't want to say on every game, but on quite a few games where we've had complaints of like, I wish it was a little less hand-holdy. So I'm just going to say to like some of the indie devs out there, go ahead and let us stumble and make some mistakes along the way. You know, you don't gotta hold our hands. Like, we'll figure it out. We'll get there. I don't mind if your game's a little hard. So
just walk me through the basic mechanics and let me experiment to find these things out. Like that's the fun part. Or like if like all else fails, like that's what everyone else posting about your game is going to be providing, is like, that's why there's 100 videos of like how to do this thing in this game. Like they are helping figure out your game for the other players and giving you kind of free advertisement. So it's
exactly. Yeah.
Don't hold our hands through it because someone else will, and you'll get free ads out of it. So why not?
Yeah, it becomes content for YouTubers and shit. which is also half of what we do anyway. So we'll do it for you. So let's slow it down a little bit, Joseph. Let's relax. Kick off your shoes if you got them. Let's talk about some other indie games we've been playing this week.
Combo!
And for myself, it's only been Rise of the Golden Idol, baby. I'm still playing it. It's going to be a while because I'm trying to
How long is that game?
Man, I don't know. Long. Long. But then again, like I've just been recovering from being sick, so I hadn't been able to.
Oh, true.
I'm doing the Let's Play series, and I wasn't able to do any for a while. So I'm just now really getting to it. So I think I'm in chapter 3. I'm somewhere in chapter 3, somewhere. But anyway, yeah, that's it for me.
So I've been playing some more Metal Slug Tactics. Really, I just played through the first island just to see what it was like. Still having a really good time with it. Again, it's hard for me to kind of slow down and do these turn-based ones with how chaotic the games I've been playing have been lately. So maybe Metal Slug will be the one. Well, Metal Slug and Toads of the Bayou will be the ones that help me slow down.
And just
pace myself out a little bit. So yeah, Metal Slug Tactics still great. Diceomancer I jumped back into. We talked about that many episodes ago. Yeah. But I have now beaten it with all 3 of the basic classes, which then unlocks some new class opportunities for me. So I'm excited to kind of dive deeper into that. That is still such a fascinating game to me because of the general idea of it is you're able to change almost any number on the screen, whether that be your attack, the enemy's attack, the enemy's health, things like that with a small dice roll. And that can either be have a small benefit for you or just make things go crazy if it's a multiplier of some kind, and then really make you do a ton of damage or make the enemies have instead of 50 health, they have 1 health now. So there's just a lot of weird ways to kind of not break the game, but mold the game in such a way that it makes it really interesting to play through it. Yeah. Because while a lot of roguelikes have it to where it's each run's unique because the maps change or the weapons you get are different. This one's each run's unique because you're literally changing all the values of the numbers on the screen. And so that just makes it a really fascinating kind of playthrough. And I've been enjoying my time with it because it's also a really kind of chill soundtrack too. So it's calming in a way, but also makes me think a little bit. So having fun with that. I also played another action roguelike called Magicraft that I had picked up. You get a wand, and then there are all kinds of different buffs and things you can put on this wand and combine to make different kind of magic spells come out of your wand. So for instance, let's just say I had a spell that cast, swords or a sword in front of me or something. So that spell baseline just does that. But then I also combine it with a spell that makes things rotate around me. Okay, so now the spell is the sword is just constantly rotating around me. Okay, but now let's say I put poison on it too. Okay, so now a poison sword is constantly rotating around me. And so that's a small example, but that's what I mean by there's just a lot of creativity to the ways that you can customize your run based on the items that you're kind of putting together within your own wand. And the wands themselves can have different cast times, have different benefits or debuffs that go on you depending on what they're actually doing. So this is another one of those that has heavy customization to it to make your runs feel really unique. So I guess that's just the type of game I like now.
That's becoming your default is to play that exact style of game.
Final round.
As far as upcoming games on our radar, our wish list, or play calendar, I only got one added on here this week because it's been a very busy week and I wasn't able to look into anything else. But I think I mentioned this once during one of the Steam fests. Maybe it was Summerfest, Next Fest, something.
Yeah, Neon I remember Blood. You talking about this one a little bit.
Yes, Neon Blood, which I think comes out, I should have done my due diligence. I want to say it comes out the 26th. I might be wrong.
Wow, you are exactly right. I just looked it up.
Hey, look at me. Look at me. This is the best way for me to describe it without looking at the description, because I didn't do any work, is pixel art cyberpunk with some turn-based combat to it. But like it's basically like a pixel art game with a, the kind of like the 2.5 dimension. That's what the D stands for. I'm an idiot. But
it kind of has like hyper realistic backgrounds with like pixelated figures walking around them.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a detective noir type game as far as I know. Set in like a cyberpunk type world, and you are doing some investigating, shaking some people down, getting in fights and all kinds of action. But even though I didn't see any turn-based combat in the trailer, it does say it has turn-based combat. The game looks gorgeous. So I'm very, very excited to see in a few days, like what are the initial reviews and everything like. I never got to play the demo, which I think is still probably in my library. So maybe I'll be able to play that before next week, because I
think they took the demo down, unless it's okay. Unless like since you have it in your library, you can play it. It's definitely not downloadable anymore that I can see.
Okay. Well, if I can, I'll play it and report back, because I'm very, very interested in this one. I think it looks amazing. So I'm excited, especially just because of the pixel art and that it's a very noir type story. Plus cyberpunk stuff is cool.
I'm going to throw it on my wish list and just at least keep an eye on it when it comes out.
Keep an eye on it. Yeah. Keep 2 eyes on it just in case. I may. Yeah.
So for me, I looked up a couple that are going to be coming out, I think next week the week after this releases. This episode
You're exactly
releases.
Right.
Perfect. The Edge of Allegoria comes out on December 4th. And this one is like it's a chaotic, well, I say chaotic. I don't know how chaotic it is. It's a turn-based RPG that visually and mechanically like pays homage to like retro Pokemon. It's not homage. You're incorrect. Look it up.
You're incorrect.
Look up that word. Okay.
Fine.
So to retro Pokemon Game Boy games, right down to like the green tinted screen. But instead of catching them all, you're mastering different weapons and item combinations against like a variety of enemies. Like you are in the same like layout of those Pokemon battles, except that instead of a Pokemon there, it's you with different weapons fighting whatever kind of monsters you're going up against. There's a range of monsters from manticores to Canadian geese, apparently. And it absolutely has like a more adult spin to it. Just from what I saw on the Steam page, because I saw like someone open a chest or something. It was like, you find pot. There were a lot of F words thrown around. So this is like an adult spin on a Game Boy RPG that looks interesting. Whether it'll be a good game, I have no idea, but I at least want to like, I don't know, see what it looks like when it comes out and see what some of the other people's experiences with it are.
I've seen some trailers of it and it looks really cool. So I'm kind of interested in this as well.
One sec.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
I didn't do anything. I'm looking something up. Okay, I'm going to play something for you, and it's going to play on the episode, but you can delete it out of this.
No.
You ready?
Yep.
Homage.
Fuck off.
Homage.
Shut up.
Homage.
Stop. You know what, though?
That's what you get for correcting me.
You know what, though? I looked it up. And according to Reddit, a lot of people in the United States pronounce it the way you do. There's also a lot that pronounce it homage, which is how it's pronounced in French because it's a French word. So
that's just you trying to be fancy at this point.
The native way to pronounce it is homage, but in the United States, more people do say homage the way you do.
Yes. Okay.
Whatever.
Now that that's sorted out. The other game I wanted to talk about was Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop. This one's December 5th, so the day after. This one looks really fun to me. So it's a quirky roguelite spaceship repair sim. And the art style and the tone of it are really kind of giving me sort of like a regular show feel. And you know how much like we both love that show. So there's an interesting complexity to the mechanics of it where you're actually like reading through these manuals and putting the ship parts together, the rocket ship stuff together. But it also seems like it can go into things like, oh, now I'm cooking donuts. Now I'm doing all these things. Like I'm doing all these like odd jobs because the goal is you're playing the story of this dude out in space who's just trying to pay his rent. And not literally, the roguelite aspect is like you can literally be worked to death by your boss or just killed off by your boss because like you didn't perform well or something. Or like you can be consumed by a random space god or something. So it's like, there's a lot of different like ways that it seems like you can just get a run ended, but at the same time, the mini game kind of mechanical aspect of the game itself looks really interesting. So I'm very curious about this one. I just learned about it this past week, and I definitely am going to pick it up to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steam page now, and this looks hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really interested in it. It's also recommended for folks that liked Papers, Please and Beholder, which is interesting because those are super dark games. But I think I see it where like it looks like the what can happen to you, and especially how you described it. There's some like dark stuff to it, but it's all presented in a very funny, cartoonish looking way. So yeah, I'm excited to see more of that as well. That looks great.
Yeah, so those are the only two I really wanted to point out as far as like, since we're coming towards the end of the year, like game releases are going to be a lot more sparse, but there are still some gems that might come out before the year ends.
Yeah. Do you think we'll end up with like a slew of indie Christmas games to talk about?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
but then again, I haven't
either.
really looked over like all the December releases, so there might be something in there that's like, oh my gosh, this is like a gift for me.
Right? Maybe we will. We're talking about maybe doing like towards the end of the year a best of 2024, at least our favorites of 2024 style episode. So if you're interested in that, let us know. If you're not interested in it, we're probably still doing it. So just letting you know. And this isn't going to encompass just games that we've reviewed on here, because that would just be rehashing everything we've already done. We're talking about the entire year of indie games for 2024. So we're going to take a look back, because we're only, so many episodes into this show. We'll look at indie games from January 1st, 2024 up until the end of 2024 and just kind of pick out what have been our favorites. So excited to do that too. And also, I was really excited to see all of the nominees for the Indie Game Awards and also for the just straight up Game Awards in the Indie Game nominee slot. So that's going to be really interesting. I think Balatro is going to really, I think they got a real strong case, folks.
I feel like Balatro is going to sweep, probably.
Yeah. I think they got a real strong case, but we'll see. There's a lot of other really good contenders there too. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of seeing what happens, I would love to see what happens if you shared this episode with someone who loves indie games. Let's experiment. Let's try that. You go share it. We'll see what happens. You can also catch me playing some of the games that we talked about on the show over at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/nerdsloth. You can also get hundreds of hours of bonus content, including a bonus podcast we're going to go record in just a minute for those at the $5 tier over at the Nerdsloth Treehouse, which you can join by subscribing at patreon.com/nerdsloth. We've got our subreddit where you can get some more indie game reviews, some of which we have talked about on the show, but these are much more carefully thought out and written in a much more professional format. Some of the games we haven't talked about on here, like Papers, Please. I put a review up for Papers, Please very, very recently. And Beholder. I mentioned both of those in this episode. I have reviews up for both of those over there if you want to see my thoughts on those two games. And also at our Patreon, which I was talking about earlier, that thing, Joseph and I we have been working on some games of our own. We're working on a video game. We're also working on a series of TTRPGs. If you are interested in what we're working on, folks over at the Patreon get some insider info on all of those things. And at our Discord, which you should go join our Discord if you haven't, the Sloth Creative Discord, we're going to be coming up with some dates for playtesting some of the TTRPGs that we're working on after the new year in January. So if that sounds interesting to you, head over to our Discord. Do that thing.
Game over.
Anyways, that's game over for us. My name's Chris.
I'm Joseph.
And we'll continue on the next episode. Do you hear how serious I got there at the end?
Continue.
Indie Game Arcade is recorded and produced by Sloth Creative. If you're looking for more gaming content, head over to youtube.com/nerdsloth. For additional podcasts, go to nerdsloth.com. If you'd like to support the show, there are multiple tiers available at patreon.com/nerdsloth, with hundreds of hours of bonus content from everything we do at Sloth Creative, including bonus gameplay videos of the games we talk about on the show. The theme music for the show is Retro Game Tapes by Audio Lime. If you'd like to get in touch with us, or if you're an indie game developer and would like us to consider reviewing your game, send us an email to podcasts@nerdsloth.com with the subject line Indie Game Arcade.